The wise champion of reds, the unspoken hero of blends. Today we talk about a grape that's loved by winemakers and is celebrating its birthday this Friday, Garnacha.
Not just big reds, it makes excellent rosés, fortified wines, and even sweet, sticky ones. Winemakers adore it, for it is easy to grow and its tendency to reach careless amount of alcohol. But tasters often reduce it to calling it a junk variety fit only for blends, all at their own peril.
It is one of the few varieties that even the Romans don't claim their stake to, and they thank the Spaniards for its origins. Its earliest mentions appear in the text in 1513. Then it was known as Aragonese and was described as a black-berried variety from Madrid.
First, it grew under the Aragonese reign and went to Catalonia, Priorat, Carinania, and other parts of within the country. From there, wherever the crown went and colonized, it also traveled along.
And today it's grown the world over. And here's a cheat code if you want to understand where exactly. Think of where a cold, frosty Northern European tourist would like to get a sunburn, and that's where you're going to find Garnacha. So Grenache goes in Australia, in China, in North Africa, in Greece, Southern Italy, California, and of course in India. All sunburn centrals. It loves the sun, provides these boozy, high alcohol wines with dense tannins, juicy flavors of sweet red fruit, much like a Nebbiolo or even a Pinot Noir.
Now, outside of Spain, the only probable international style where Grenache can stake its claim is the Southern Rhone King Châteauneuf du Pape, alongside Syrah and Mourvedre in the blend. But it wasn't here where it landed in France for the first time. It flourished under Roussillon before France annexed it in 1659, before which it was a part of Spain. After that, it became a permanent feature in their vineyards, making all sorts of wines, be it the Rhone Reds, the Rosés of Tavel and Lirac, or the sweet wines of Rasteau, Maury, Banuels, or even playing a part in the famed Provençal rosés like the ones owned by Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, or Sarah Jessica Parker, or singers like Bon Jovi, Kylie Minogue, Post Malone, John Legend, and the list goes on.
Though the celebs have added a lot of glamour to Grenache today, the actual true fame it received was thanks to Burgundy. Being a favorite tipple of the kings and queens, Burgundian wines enjoyed an undisputed position. But the wines were weak to store, let alone transport, and all the hush-hush Grenache reds with their boozy alcohol and stern tannins from Rhone were blended quietly into Burgundian Pinots to make them more muscular and stand the test of time. Only later, when the imbibers learnt about the varietal, did the heads turn towards Grenache and the Rhone Valley.
And talking about the taste of time, its wines are hardy and doesn't require much care in the vineyards. And it is probably owing to this quality that some of the oldest plants in France and Spain are indeed Grenache wines. And from then, now we also get white Grenache that is extensively used in white Châteauneuf du Pape, a grey one from Sardinia to make beautiful rosé wines, a hairy one from Catalan to make beautiful vin de natural. The list is endless.
Well, I particularly really highly regard the Rioja play that it brings into the wines. It adds a ton of oomph and a power to the blends, and it shows a lot more in the Reserva and the Gran Reserva versions of the region. And I really like the high altitude, low density Grenache from Australia, because that really changes and lifts the image for this grape in a very new, contemporary manner.
And for me, it is the gracious, juicy, soft, luscious rosés of Navarra that display the kinder avatar of this grape variety. They're excellent proposition, which has also inspired winemakers all over the world. And now India is growing its share of Grenache as well, which we saw on our trip in March before the lockdown happened. Some winemakers are already making their Grenache, Shiraz, Mourvedre, GSM blend. They're even trying some Appassimento drying process on Grenache. And there's already a well-appreciated rosé on the shelf, which is Sula's Source, which I am tasting today. It is probably the only Grenache rosé in the country as of right now. And I've already poured myself a dram. What are you up to now? What are you tasting?
So what I have is the first Grenache that was grown in Spain in the region of Aragon, coincidentally. And it was launched in 2000 as 100% Grenache, and 15,000 bottles were made then. Slightly oak-aged, fruit macerated to get the flavors. And it is called the Tres Picos from the house of Borsao, their prestige bottling. And this one is from the La Borja DOC. And I have it poured here. So there, I got a red and you got a rosé. Not bad. First with the tasting notes.
A little, not very pinkish, but a little more salmon, on the nose. That beautiful soft creaminess is there. The juicy red fruits, strawberries and red currants and red berries, that's also there. But what do you expect and what do you get from a red Grenache?
Well, I think we're on the same page with the fruits. It's really heady, dense berry. Maybe a little mulchy here, but still ripe and not overripe and rotting anywhere, but definitely squished up like a fruit Kool-Aid or something like that. Let's have a sip.
Yep, the rosé, the tannins are negligible, but it's really creamy. Grenache is not one of those red grape varieties that boasts of high acidity, but this one has ample to clean the palate. The sweet fruit is definitely there. I think overall it's a very clean wine, a good first effort from India in Grenache rosés, and at around 1270, I think it's a good value for money proposition. I mean, you don't have to think too much before you pick it. But yeah, the label could be a little more exciting.
Well, for me, all I can tell you is I just had one sip. It's a lot of fruit. The tannins are fairly grippy and clenchy. But I think the first thing that happened is my head spun a bit. And then I had to check the bottle and it says 15% alcohol. But I think that's what Grenache does. But it's a punchy wine. It's strong as well to an extent. But the fruit is unmistakable. It's holding well for 2017. I think for 3,300 rupees, a top cuvee from Boursao's, the House of Boursao, I think it's definitely worth it. And it's available in retail in our country. So I think not a bad pick. So, but right now, I think I'd go more with the rosé than the red. So you want to exchange?
I'm going to hold on to this wine because on Friday, 18th of September, it is the International Grenache Day. It is its birthday. And I think it'll be our homage to be filling our cups with a Grenache, be it a red or a rosé. So on that note, cheers.
Cheers.